Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Another M14 draft is waiting for us here at Simon Says. Angelic Accord is a great build around me card, but there's a Briarpack Alpha which kind of dominates the uncommons, and also Siphon Sliver doesn't stand up to the power of the Flash Wolf. I kind of like that this gives the format another 4-mana flash creature next to Nephalia Sea Kite to ambush creatures. I don't think there are many commons that come close in power level to Briarpack Alpha. I even like it better than Enlarge. I know that a lot of people think that Enlarge is the best uncommon in green in M14, but I prefer Briarpack Alpha. It's just a more solid card and works in more circumstances. The next best card in the pack, I believe, is Messenger Drake, although I have picked Angelic Accord quite highly in order to build around a deck around it. Let's take the Alpha and see what we get. Guardian of the Ages and 3 awful uncommons. Rod of Ruin is marginally playable, but this pack is really weak. Guardian of the Ages isn't a card that you want in your draft decks, because spending 7 on an artifact defender is just not worth your mana, and then your opponent gets to decide at which point you are allowed to attack, so not a great card. Yeah, this pack is really bad. Somebody took a common out of this, and it could be anything. The cards I like the most are the Firecat and Sensory Deprivation, which is a little better than Cancel, although it's kind of fun to try to build a deck that is just mostly instants and flash creatures, which does make Cancel better as a result. The Firecat is fine, but not a second pick. I'm going to go with the Deprivation here, simply because there is nothing here of interest, and it is somewhat of a removal spell. Oh wow, 2 Blightcasters, 1 foil, 1 regular, both in the pack, and we already picked a Deprivation, so that must be a sign for us. There is also a Deadly Recluse, and Stone Enchanter is a card that I want to talk about real quick. I think it's actually quite underrated, and one of the ways to make white decks work is to just have this as a late game option, in particular in conjunction with Angelic Accord we just passed. I'm not going to take it here, of course, but just a little heads up. I think that guy goes a little too late. I think the decision here is really between Deadly Recluse or one of the Blightcasters. Don't think it's unreasonable to pick Blightcaster really high and try to build a deck around him. And Deadly Recluse is just another solid green card. If the green cards keep coming, that's fine, but I like to, in this format, to pick cards that really have a high impact. And I think Blightcaster qualifies, or at least allows you to build some fun decks around him. If this pick doesn't end up working out, if we are moving into a different direction, then we've kind of wasted the pick rather than picking up a Deadly Recluse, but I think that's fine. If green is open, then we should have no trouble picking up enough cards. Mana Rift Sliver is the card I like the most out of this pack, better than Hunt the Weak or Firecat. There's also Celestial Flare, but that's not a card I'm keen to pick up. Gladecover Scout is quite interesting with Blightcaster, because then you can just start jamming all those Dark Favors and Troll Hides and whatever other auras you get. But first I'm going to take the Mana Rift Sliver. It's always nice to have some exploration. It's also mana fixing, and it's the best card in the pack. Okay. Once again, another weak pack. Deathgaze Cockatrice is a card I like because Death Touch is, well, something that allows you to handle almost anything your opponent does, if the opponent isn't willing to spend a removal spell on the Cockatrice. With Tempo being not completely irrelevant, but only marginally relevant, it also doesn't matter too much if your opponent spends less mana to kill the Cockatrice than you've spent to cast it. Yeah, I'm just going to take it here. There isn't much I'm interested in anyway. Okay, things are getting interesting. This pack is a lot deeper than some of the packs we've seen before. Goblin Diplomats is actually quite a nice card. The ability really messes with some decks in there. Well, the defensive potential gets destroyed, and sometimes you just ambush creatures for free. So Goblin Diplomats is really nice. Stonehorn Chanter I already talked about. There's Giant Spider and Elvish Mystic, and we do want to pick up green cards from what things are looking like. Kind of like going with the Mystic here, because we already have a Mana Reft Sliver. That means that we are going to be able to somewhat rely on our earlier acceleration and be a little more greedy with our mana curve. Whereas Giant Spider is just a regular good card, so to speak. Here we have Child of Night and Undead Minotaur if we want to continue picking black cards. Alternatively, there is Lay of the Land, but Lay of the Land isn't really a card I want all that much in my draft decks. Child of Night hasn't impressed me at all, because 2/1s just get dominated too easily in this format. So I'm going to pick Undead Minotaur here, even though it's also not super amazing or anything. This is a pretty late Windstorm that's competing with Ranger's Guile and Corpse Hauler. Corpse Hauler is a different animal compared to Child of Night, because its ability means that no matter how late the game has gone, it is still going to provide a very reasonable effect for its cost, which is just not something that holds for cards like Child of Night. In a sense, Corpse Hauler is a very good mana sink, if you want. I'm not sure how much I like picking up Windstorm here, just to have a card against flyers. Essence Scatter is actually quite good, but I'm gonna go with Corpse Hauler because I haven't seen the signals to really go into any kind of blue deck at this point. This pack is interesting. Barrage of Expendables can be quite good, but we have no interest in picking up a red card here. So it's going to be a marginally playable card. Sliver Construct to block Academy Raider, for example. We have black creatures, so we don't have to worry about a Cursed Spirit. I'm gonna go with Dark Favor here. I don't like to play it, but there is a Blightcaster already in our pack, and we might actually try to build a Fringe deck with Gladecover Scout or something, and then I want the Dark Favor more than anything else. Here, Minotaur Abomination looks like a reasonable card to use our mana acceleration with. Another Undead Minotaur. There's the Stonehorn Chanter going late as always. Zephyr Charge is fun, but Undead Minotaur is just the card that we want. And here it's going to be our first Gladecover Scout. Who knows, maybe we'll be able to do something about that. Okay, another Chanter. Who knows, we can splash that off. Mana Reft Sliver. I'm not going to hide anything except for this Artificer's Hex. And yeah, not a great pack one. Let's hope that we get some powerful cards now. Okay, another Guardian of the Ages. Definitely not what I meant. There's also another Gladecover Scout, so we might be able to do something here. There is an Air Servant, and Air Servant is really, really good, but I think I'm going to be conservative and just pick the Croc Signets. It's a removal spell. We have quite a healthy black mana base already, and we do have a Blightcaster, so I just like picking up an enchantment removal spell here, better than trying to play blue-black or splashing the Air Servant. We do have the green acceleration and the Barapack Alpha, so our green is stronger than a single Air Servant at this point. This pack has Witchstalker, which usually isn't that high of a pick for me, but it has Hexproof, so it's another card that could work with our sub-theme of maybe putting some auras on our creatures. There's the Trollhide and a Spore Mount, but I think we're going to pick Witchstalker and hope for Trollhide to come back. Colonian Tusker, Advocate of the Beast. Wow, Colonian Tusker is really sweet. It is double green, which is going to be a little bit of a problem, but it's a super efficient creature, and I'm just going to take it here. It's one of the best 2-drops, if not the best 2-drop in the format, and yeah, even though we're passing the Advocate, I just love Colonian Tusker. Okay, let's see. Voracious Worm isn't the card I'm interested in. It's basically Giant Growth or Giant Spider at this point, and the question is how much we want a combo trick in our deck. Playing the Giant Spider off of the accelerated mana of Elvish Mystic and Mana Reft Sliver is definitely valuable, although Giant Growth also supports our deck very nicely because our efficient creatures are going to be backed up by an even more efficient combat trick. I'm going to be conservative once again and pick Giant Spider, also because I think that it's usually easier to pick up either Giant Growths or Ranger Skiles compared to Giant Spider. And here the options are Advocate of the Beast or Mark of the Vampire. There's an Elite Arcanist, so hopefully people won't play that against us. We don't have too much removal at this stage of the game, so definitely something to keep in mind. Usually people don't main deck the Arcanist though, and we are black, so we might just have Ring Flashes and people might not bring it in. Advocate of the Beast is great with Colonian Tusker. That explains itself, but I'm going to pick Mark of the Vampire. We already have the Hexproof sub-theme and the green fatties. Even an Undead Minotaur are very good with Mark of the Vampire. It's also another aura to trigger Blightcaster. So yeah, usually I would pick Advocate of the Beast over Mark of the Vampire, but this is a deck where this is different. I was just talking about our lack of removal, and Ring Flash definitely serves as one from time to time, although it's more of a combat trick. But it's kind of tough to not pick Rumbling Baloth here. It is our 6th 4-drop, which means we do have to be a little bit careful or pick up another Elvish Mystic maybe. But I'm still going to take it here. And now we have the option between Hunt the Weak and Deathgaze Cockatrice. I'm not going to prioritize Dark Favor over any of these cards that are definitely better. I think I like Hunt the Weak more. We are lacking removal and we have a lot of creatures at 4 already, so Hunt the Weak is going to be the better card. There's an Into the Wilds that's competing with Blood Baron and theoretically Naturalize. Blood Baron isn't really good in our deck. We don't have a single Tenacious Dead, not even a Festering Nude, so that isn't a high priority. I really like Into the Wilds, although our curve is giving me quite the headache. I never want that many 4-drops. I think Into the Wilds is a great card, although I've seen a lot of people that don't like it. I just think that giving you a free Goblin Guide trigger every turn is going to win you so many late games that it's worth that it doesn't affect the board in the beginning. I'm going to pick up the 2nd Scout here, although I'm hoping that a Trollhide comes back, but I don't think it's happening, so we might just have to open some of these. Sliver Construct isn't exciting. No, I think Duress is a nice sideboard card for us. We might actually main deck it, even though I wouldn't advise that in general. These cards are pretty much garbage. And Illusionary Armor is also pretty bad. Groundchecker Sliver, hopefully not making the deck. And yeah, we definitely still need some cards. I would love for the next pack to have another Elvish Mystic. Could actually see first picking that, just to fix my curve, the problems my curve has. And other than that, removal spells are very high up on my list. Another Croc Cygnus would be great. Lifebane Zombie is also quite nice. Let's see if there are alternatives. Definitely not the 5-drop. Festering Nude is the only other card that even comes close. So yeah, this pick is really easy. It's a Lifebane Zombie, great pickup, and yeah, actually a great constructed and limited card. Here we see another unimpressive pack. My favorite card out of the black-green cards is Deathgaze Cockatrice, but I really don't need another 4-drop. I could pick up another 5-drop, although that suffers from similar problems. If I have too many 4-drops, then my 5-drop slot shouldn't be a big concern. I can just play another 4-drop. But it's more important to have something to do early on. And in this deck, I believe that dropping a Child of Night is still better than playing a Blood Baron. I'm also still hoping for a Trollhide or 2, so the upside of having a Child of Night is just higher than picking a Blood Baron, in my opinion. Okay, it looks like the Trollhides are not happening, but that's okay. There's a Corrupt, which is reasonable, but actually not all that amazing in a deck that's likely going to run 8 or 9 Swarms. It's still an Essence Drain for 3, most of the time in a deck that has even mana, in a 2-color deck that has even mana. But yeah, I just don't like it. It's great in mono black. I don't like it in decks that have heavy requirements of both colors. We are playing Colonial Tusker, so that tells us quite a lot about how much damage Corrupt is going to do. I'm gonna pick Root Valor here. I think it's better than Predatory Sliver, even though we have a Mana Reft Sliver. And I hope that we can do without this Ring of Flash, or maybe get one later still. Oh wow, this is interesting. Blightcaster is competing for a Sengir Vampire, and they are clearly the best cards for us. Blightcaster, another 4-drop, Sengir Vampire, just a really good 5-drop for flying and everything. Now, the thing is, Dark Favor is not high on our list to make our main deck, which leaves us with Into the Wilds and Mark of the Vampire to trigger the one Blightcaster we have. That means that Sengir Vampire is clearly the better card for us. As sad as that is. Okay, this pack has almost nothing except for Fire Shrieker, and I'm not even sure how good the Fire Shrieker would be in this deck. We have a Deathgaze Cockatrice, but that's about it. And all the other creatures are cards where Fire Shrieker is reasonable, but nothing to get excited about. We also don't have any enlarges, so that's a combo that I always look out for with Fire Shrieker. We could pick up a Shrivel for the sideboard, but there's a small chance that we just end up with a Fire Shrieker in our deck, so I'm going to take it here. Having a Shrivel in the sideboard is very valuable too, though. Mind Rot is a nice pickup, a card I really like in this format. And we might want to draw first, given that we have the Accelerants here, but this is going to depend on how our deck looks like in the end. Ranger's Guile could easily end up in our main deck, and it's a lot more likely to do so than Brindlebore. Sanguine Bond isn't going to be triggered too often. I'm just going to take it out because it's the only black card. And Vampire Warlord is reasonable. I hope that we don't have to play it. It's rather unimpressive. The question is if I can see myself playing 2 Minotaur Abominations at any point. I think 1 is already pushing it, so let's take the 5-drop. Deathgaze Cockatrice Wheel, so yeah, this is just the all 4-drop deck with a Shrivel for the sideboard. Don't know what to think about the deck we've drafted, but hopefully things will work out. I have a feeling that this is going to be ending up as a pretty simple-minded deck with a lot of creatures and not many tricks. The whole hexproof aura plan didn't work out, so we can easily cut most of this. Don't think we are going to play any of these cards, leaving us with those 4-drops, which are kind of nice. I'm going to put Fire Shrieker to the 5-drops. Our 3-drops are amazing, and I like pretty much all of the 4-drops, even though there are too many of them. And then Groundshaker Sliver is definitely too bad. Don't like the Warlord, and I'm on the fence about the Minotaur Abomination. It's kind of sad that this deck doesn't have a good way to use excess mana, which is one of the easiest way to just lose games in this format, but that doesn't make playing Minotaur Abomination, well, amazing. It just means it's a little better than it would be otherwise. I'm gonna run Into the Wilds. I think it's still good enough to do so. We have Elvish Mystic and Mana Reft Sliver, so we might be fine with 17 mana sources, and I feel that we have to play Fire Shrieker. It's great with Mark of the Vampire. We have 2 Death Touch creatures now, and sometimes our game plan is just going to be to have the biggest, scariest creature on the battlefield. So yeah, Fire Shrieker is definitely staying. I'm gonna cut the Abomination, and then maybe a Child of Night, simply because it's the card with the least impact out of the ones we have. Doesn't really work with any of our other cards either. So yeah, let's see. If we cut this, Then we have basically even mana requirements with Elvish Mystic producing another green and Mana Reft Sliver producing any color. Now, Colonian Tusker and Witch Stalker are early green requirements, and on the black side we have Lifebane Zombie, 2 Deathgaze Cockatrice, and a Sengir Vampire. Well, there's also a Quark Sickness, so that should probably be here somewhere. In the late game, we definitely want to draw more Swamps because of Quark Sickness, and if we draw a single forest and either of these, our mana is pretty fixed pretty well. I think the intuitive thing to do is to play more forests because we want to be able to cast Elvish Mystic and Mana Reft Sliver. It does mean that some of these are supported less than if we play 9 Swamps. Then we still need a single forest, but then if we draw a single forest and either of these, everything is fine. I mean, this is an additional green source, so it really depends on how you look at the Colonian Tusker. Do we really want to have 2 forests in our starting hand to just play this? Or do we prefer to have more Swamps in our deck? Because a single forest is still going to allow, those creatures to fix our mana, especially the Elvish Mystic. I'm never sure how to answer that question, though. It's 9-8 or 8-9. That's very clear. And that Ranger's Guile is another reason to have an additional forest. Quark Sickness is the biggest reason to have double black. We also have a Root Waller that takes green mana. So yeah, we really want to have double green. Given that we have the Tusker, I'm going to go with an additional green source, but I think it's a really close decision. Good. We have a little bit of trickiness going on. Most of it is sorcery speed, but that just means that we have to play somewhat carefully and trade very efficiently. Ranger's Guile is really our only instant, but we do have a Briarpack Alpha, so that's basically 2 tricks. Not the greatest, but I'm not going to main deck Naturalize just to have another instant. Let's see how this goes.